and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, and welcome to this video together today with me in this beautiful sacred spot. And the video once again will be dedicated to divine union. So I'm holding this beautiful heart, the rose quartz heart, and I was contemplating as I was coming to this sacred spot what I can talk about today, what I can address in terms of the importance of our understanding. So as you know, there's a difference between the union that I talk about as in sacred union that keeps on expanding, and it's ever expanding, and it really kind of like the emphasis of that union is on your ever expanding nature, right, in all life in creation. While the many different theories of union that can only be achieved in a certain partnership that comes outside of you, someone else can hold that flame, that torch for you. Otherwise you can't achieve that union. You got to search for that person, otherwise you're not really doing that. So there's a difference in that. So there's a sovereign freedom and expansion in the union, the kind of union I talk about, and it comes from the realms of illumination. It comes from the realms of truth, and knowing that the union with yourself and your source and your own feminine, masculine, sacred essence that create the third energy, as in sacred triangulation, are always built within you as a template, as that seed of life in creation, no matter what kind of level of understanding you're coming from as a soul, as an individualized soul. So as you're traveling your journey, right, you will have many different experiences with your union. You will have different perspectives about it, different waves of receptivity of how you connect to that, and that as a template or that as a certain truth. And there's a different tendency between those who still kind of hold that in the regard that it's something they need to search for. So as I was contemplating this today, I had this inner vision, because it does come from my own experience here on earth and my experiences that go beyond just this planet and this realm. And I had this thought of just how much people here still hold this idea of union as in greater reverence than the union itself. So there's a great emphasis, especially in many New Age circles, where there's this idea of union. There's much intellectual approach to that. Even spiritual approach cannot meet the levels of when you actually expand into that realm of the ever-expanding union, your union with source and different levels of your creation self. So the seed is always built in, the template is always there. And where I come from these beautiful realms of illumination, union is seen as this greatest devotion and commitment to life and to serve all life. Whereas the more fixated and more contracted approaches to this union come from the standpoint of romantic infatuation, you know, and all of that, and how union is supposed to be. But I notice a lot of frivolity in people who see that as in temporary stages. The temporary unions are not the same as that transcendental nature of yourself that you've already mastered within your soul, that's planted deeply within you, that's rooted, and it goes out into all life and it feeds all life, and that's how you help the ever greater expansion of source as it's expressed in all life, in all existence. So I want to say first and foremost that when you will be ready for these higher waves of receptivity, for these higher levels of divine union, and I've talked about this last summer, I made this video on illumined unions. I'm also going to write about that in my book. It's going to be a part of everything that I'm going to share with you, because as you know, creation is vast. But union is most important emphasis because it deals with the part of us that is ever expanding, you know, and the more and more we move into that source aspect. So on earth, we see that as a reflection outside of us within the sacred partnership. And I've shared about this so many times, right? And I want to say that a lot of these perspectives that come from that awareness of the other person, they're not wrong. They're just still very limited as in our capacity to love and our ability to love and serve in truth. So they can't go beyond that capacity that's really coming from that commitment to divine service, and that commitment to the greatest integrity that you know it's kind of like what you hold within you. And with this frivolous and this instant momentaneous infatuation is not the same, right? So the first thing I want to say here is that we need to deepen that level of commitment if we want our commitments and the partnerships that come our way to reflect that, right? So what we do many times on earth, and I notice this in people, is they get very infatuated with the idea, with a spiritual concept or a person itself, and they're willing to overextend that to the degree that it kind of like it becomes just you know, it's almost like you're recycling a certain energy instead of really expanding and transcending that. So there's a lot of that, and the thing is, we're going to have to come into deeper states of awareness where I come from, right? And when I say that, it's not like a place, but it's the awareness of soul and the group soul energy that's built, and that's kind of like serving as a foundation to kind of help other souls who are moving into greater levels of union. So for us to move into this these greater, vaster levels of union, we really have to go deeper, right? It might sound very archetypal, very metaphysical, very mystical, and yet it is a space of magic, you know? It's something that you can find only on your own. You can only discover on your own. Everything you've ever read about unions, twin flames, partnerships, divine partnership, whatever it is, it's like any other concept. You're eventually going to have to throw away the bag. You're eventually going to have to throw away the theory, and you're going to have to prepare for oral exam. What does this mean? You know, like in school, when we had those exams, right, with theoretical part, and then for you to kind of like go into the practical part, you kind of had to also let go of the theory and trust that the theory is not mentally built within you, because it cannot sustain the level of your oral exam and what you're going to do in practice. But it's just kind of going to captivate you if you can kind of like not let it go, if you don't know how to let it go. So when you let go, this comes back, and it actually comes from the level of integration. It's not just coming from, you know, like what you've kind of like built upon, these structures and these beliefs, and then it becomes a natural source of sustenance for you. This is kind of like when a level of divine union gets integrated for you within you. This is kind of like how it will feel. It will be natural. It will be the level that will sustain you continuously from there on for what you've managed to achieve. So what I noticed in many individuals, and still on this earth plane, is a lot of frivolity, like I shared, a lot of that infatuation with the idea of union, more than when something presents itself, people are not willing to go the extra distance, the extra mile, because they don't yet know what it means to truly commit to something. You know, the level of commitment we know here on earth is, okay, I commit to this project, or even a relationship. You say, oh, this is my husband or wife, and you commit to them for a few years. You know, people then get a divorce or not, or they stay together, but it's still considered from greater aspects of the union with ourselves. Still kind of like a minute, very tiny fraction. It's kind of like how we see time on earth is not how time is perceived on different levels and different dimensions elsewhere. So a union that is truly mystical in nature, the mystical union and the commitment to that mystical marriage, which is that eternal marriage with spirit first, and that later, like I said, when you learn to integrate that, it will continuously sustain you. It's not something which you need to achieve on each level. You have to kind of like, you're kind of chasing it. Like I always give you this example of a dog chasing its own tail, and that's what a lot of people are doing. And they're saying, we're unifying, but it's just like going in circles. When a union is real, it's like it's moving in spirals, right? Because the spiral, each time it expands, right? It elevates where you are and moves it to a new level. So when you see the broader nature of your soul and the capacity of your soul to love and be loved and create from that love will grow. It won't be seen from that linear perspective. And that kind of terms, those of us who come here from these high realms of awareness, for us, union is something much different. And for me, I always seen union as something that's not just commitment to something a few months or a few years. It's like this overextensive, constant, transcendental nature and state of being. So these are the higher realms of union that perhaps those of you who are more advanced in your soul understanding and you've done a lot of contemplation, you've done a lot of inner integration work, you're going to be starting to feel, you're going to start to feel that coming in. And that's why probably today I'm guided to talk about this and showing you this beautiful heart. Because it's something that people will always, you know, when they speak about their perspectives or their ideas or visions of romantic love, and what you hold within you about that will vary, because people, like I say, souls are in different levels and stages of their evolution. Plus, we take upon these different bodies, these different forms that are kind of like our hosting bodies. And our ability to connect through these bodies with the depth and the richness of our soul also relates to how much we have already blended in and, you know, kind of like really merged with this body. There's a lot of people who their soul's not fully merged with their body, and it's never going to be in the course of one lifetime. So you see, like, commitment to union is something that's a constant process in the making. And there's union that always unfolds on so many levels. It's like your union with this body first, your union with all aspects of you as a soul, before you can even unify with someone else. So when you get to that level, when you can achieve that, and you feel your love can overinflate itself, it can move out, and it can come out in greater waves, and you can have this ability to share with another without falling into these extreme patterns of codependency and attachment and addiction, and, you know, not feeling like enough and not feeling self-sufficient or self-confident. Then you will kind of overbirth yourself through that level. You're kind of birthing to an overextended level and layout of who you are. So what you build upon is this foundation, and that's you. And then it will continue to move outside of you in greater waves. It's like this, right? Each time the wave and the particle meet, and they extend further out. So these are the blendings that are occurring within true nature of divine love that's ever expanding. It's not static. So when we say union, I see people in the New Age realm say, wow, that's our union, it has its stages, and then it's complete. That's not how it is. Even when you feel complete on a certain level, when you're truly embracing the nature of source and the ever expanding nature of creation, and all life is always expanding. So when you do that, you'll stop seeing union as something fixed or something that's linear, and it has these chapters and stages, and, you know, and people talk about these stages of unions on a certain level that holds, right, as a glue, when you look into the nature of the self and how many of these spirit initiations and integrations you walk through. But again, it's just a certain outline. It's an outdated mode and module when you come to greater levels of union. So when I look at the nature of how people perceive love, and, you know, in my experience with sharing with a few beings, and me as a woman sharing with a few men in my life on this journey, I've seen just how not in depth their love was. I can't say superficial or shallow, because then again makes it sound like it's fragmented and dualistic, or it's lower and lesser in nature. It's just not as evolved as it can be within the infinite vast potential. So there's different levels of our maturity and our evolution in love. So when we say, well, this is the union and this is the outcome, we're still not fully matured in the understanding of spirit and our core self in creation, because we still see ourselves as almost like this project when you have like this beginning and end to it. Or there's us and the other person, and we got to meet halfway, and this is union, and that's all we perceive of union. The true mystical marriage, sacred marriage, begins with the essence of the connectedness with spirit, first within you, and your ability to penetrate yourself first with that depth, with that richness, so you can have the ability to penetrate to another being. Because if another person comes into your life, right, and a lot of people are so infatuated with this idea of someone perfect existing just for them, and we all on the human level had points when we experienced that. But this mystical marriage and this mystical union is something that says, okay, so what happens when this happens, right? How does your soul alchemy work? How much are you able to be and coexist with that person on greater levels of unity? Can you hold that? Because even in terms of sexuality and what people perceive an orgasm, it's very static. It's like punctual, and then it's gone, right? One moment you have that blissful connection, then it's gone, and you continue to chase it throughout your whole life. It's the same way with people, right? You think there's someone perfect just for you, no one else, and then you keep chasing the dream, you keep chasing the goal instead of unifying with that dream which already lives within you. Like, we have so much love, and I see within humanity a lot of people, they continuously searching for love, more passion, more everything, right? More projects. we can't notice the love that's already there. And that's why in greater levels and capacities, we never fully integrate it. It's almost like we never fully let ourselves vacuum out, empty out before we are ready to embody and accept this new level of union. So what we do is we're always kind of keeping an aspect of that, which we say, okay, we transcended that, and we never fully do until we say, I gotta keep just little of that. It's almost like you have items, right, and they're a part of something, and you say, I'm gonna clean that away, so you throw a bunch of them away, but you keep something just as a memory of that. Even just as a memory of that will still kind of hold you and will captivate you in something you perceive that's it, and will remind you of that which is you think is your truth, and it's going to be partial, and it will continue to exist within that. And what I teach, not really teach, but I share with you as a sacred teaching itself, right? I don't teach, it's just that I share the essence of the teaching of life and creation and the ever expanded nature of divine union. And for me, beloved union is not just twin flame union. For me, a beloved union is much vaster, and that's why I use that term. So it's union with all life in creation through our source nature. And like I said, a lot of us, we had this wishful thinking. We have this idea of something or a person or an idea, but we never want to fully transcend and move into the next level. We always keep things that remind us of where we already are. But perhaps that was already explored. That was already our nature. We've already lived through that. And we're never going to be really ready on the fullness. And, like our container is only able to hold as much as we perceive in our consciousness. Our consciousness kind of like relates to the idea of how our reality will become. It denotes our reality and how things unfold for us. So the greater levels of union you achieve, perhaps you're no longer going to be controlled with the things and aspects or even people's ideas that you used to be before. It's going to be new and ever expanding. So that's the true nature of divine liberation and soul, true freedom, and the ability to first know how to penetrate yourself so deeply that you're always going to evolve. You never stay static with, okay, this is my personality, this is how I am, and me as a point A will reunite with this point called B and this person, and we're two beings that are like fixed dots. And when we come together, we create this, right? An X. No, when you know yourself as within the core creation nature and the universal principles that govern all life in creation and these natural laws that apply to every one of us and all that exists. It's not just, people sometimes say, oh, the universe grants these wishes, or the universe asks the universe, right? That sounds so technical because we're not even just this universe. It's just one aspect of creation. It's vast. And in truth, source is that love that it exists in enormous capacity we often can't even comprehend. But when we allow ourselves to go deeper and penetrate deeper, we're going to have a more profound experience with it. That's all I'm saying. So you can have a limited experience of union, or what you perceive to be union, or you can have a more expanded, always opening aspect. And when I'm saying these words, and if you're really tuning into with your consciousness, you're already feeling it. You're already being activated. You're already being uplifted through that higher awareness that's not fixed, right? So in truth, it's not point A, point B, and they kind of meet along the lines and, union, right? Hello, ooh, we create a crossing. It's not how it is. You are a spinning, ever expanding trajectory, right, of this, your own co-creation self. You're eternal and infinite at the same time. So there's another one, right? And this joke, right? When you start moving like this and then you want to move the other one in the other direction, it doesn't go, right? Because our bodies can't literally, channel this. It's like, okay, this one spins this way, I have to spin this way. Your brain does not connect in such a way. Because that's what I'm trying to say. Your body already shows you that certain things are so beyond what our brain can comprehend that you gotta plug that out, like the ability to think it through. And just allow the feeling of, okay, I can go deeper. What's true union? Okay, what is the true penetration levels I can achieve in this moment? Can I go deeper and beyond what I already think I know about this? So you're this rotating, not just a globe, you're like this rotating vortex of your core self. And there's another one, right? So it's not like here and here, static, moving, creating an X, right? And time is perceived differently here than if you have this reality of two spinning vortices. All of a sudden with this magic pulled into each other's universe. And I'm not using the universe in terms of what our true universe is, but two micro universes, right? Two little realms. And unique aspects that kind of like intertwine, and you know, it's like two galaxies that merge together. That's a union on a much vaster level that we can comprehend. It's like, how does that happen? How do all the elements have to align for two such vast things? You know, we say galaxies. It's not even a thing. We can't even put a word to it. It's just mystical. It's all based on this higher spirit logic. Like I say, our brain can't translate yet. The brain does not have the capacity. So if you already switched to that, right? You're like, how can I plan? How can I be like from here to here? If I do this, you know, it's like a trajectory that shifts a little bit. And if I do a little bit of alterations here, perhaps then it leads me to this union like here in this way. So when we plan things in stages, or when people say, okay, this psychic told me in 3 months time I will meet someone for me and that will be it, or you know, things like that, that's coming from the linear perspective. And people who will give you information like that, they themselves are still tuned into that level of limited reality, because that's still not an infinite reality, and it's expanding creation potential. Okay, so bear with me please. So when you have these two rotating vortices that are not just rotating, okay, we've got this part, but they're also expanding, you know, and they're moving in space. Like, you know, it was proven by metaphysical scientists that Earth is not just spinning around itself and the sun, but the whole solar system, and then it spins around ever greater objects of the spin. So how can you explain that, right? How can you say, okay, in this nature of this spin, how do we see ourselves as A and B and trajectory in between, and then a crossing? It's still a very limited fragment of a reality that can be a potential, but it's much more limited than the nature of the broad, wider, expanded union. So when you live the expanded nature of union, the things you've already lived through and outgrew no longer make sense to you. And even if there's aspects that you say, well, this is what I believed and perceived about myself and the other, and there's this, and you know, and when you expand your reality to this, you're gonna see that you are this vast ocean of divine love that knows exactly how, where, what's rotating, what's expanding. That you, if you just drop this limited perception of that, you will be exactly where you need to be. Everything is in this divine timing, but that time is not linear from A to B and a crossing in between. That timing is like this pulsating nature of all life that you're always a part of, you're always in heartbeat union with. So when I talk about the nature of beloved union, it occurs a lot around this heartbeat, which is you align with your own heartbeat, and that heartbeat, that vibrational heartbeat and attunement with your core creation self naturally magnetizes that, because you're electric, you are magnetic. This creates this union and this triangulation, and I call this the tantrika being, which is you in all aspects of you unified, you know, as the source creation and that which experiences that life in creation. So this Trinity, divine Trinity, also exists in all religions. It just has different names. So that's for me true union. But even that triangle, it builds upon itself and expands, right? And it grows. So when you have that level of understanding and commitment, you will no longer see yourself and the person you might meet and you might be attracted to, or you might be attracted to creating something together. When the union and these levels are so much in depth, and they're so spiritualized through the sacred life force, and they're so committed and devoted, they're no longer going to be, okay, I'm this point A meeting point B, together we create something, that's it, you know. Because I see people who don't have the farsightedness that we need when we are existing in those high realms of perception. That farsightedness will show us what's worth and willing to expand through the investment of our life force energy into it or not. And that's why I say people are frivolous, because so many times my experiences with them were such. And they say, oh, I want this. And they're 3 days in it. They're like, oh, I no longer want it, right? Because they don't have this wise farsightedness that some of us who are here for that reason and for purposes of sharing about this do. And when I met up with these people, I was so taken aback, because I literally had to contemplate so much on how people perceive love and how much that is in distortion with the true reality of ever-expanding nature of divine love, and how few people have that commitment to that love. Because first, your commitment needs to be to that spirit. That is that Holy Spirit, that breath of life that exists, and it's all within that nature of divine love. When your commitment is to the person only, or to the project or the idea only, and it lacks that, it won't be spinning with this ever-expanding notion of propulsion of life in creation. I hope you follow me up to this point. I know it's kind of like perhaps advanced, but in truth, when you put away those filters of the linear limited reality and fragments, you will come into the nature of, because limited reality does promote fragmentation still. Whereas the creation, the spiraling of life, and you moving into the spiral of ascension, that does not, it no longer promotes that distortion and division and duality and fragmentation. It simply is always unified. It's unified. It's unified. So perhaps the best thing to share with you today is create a practice for yourself where you are going deeper, when you allow yourself to go deeper, and when you choose something, not just a union with a person, but everything you are willing to commit to beforehand. Don't just jump into it because you're filling a void within yourself, or you simply are human, so you must do things. Go at it with this far-sightedness, with this greater vision of universal love and unity, and wiser commitment there, or is wise for that commitment to be there, so it's not just an infatuation and you get bored with it very fast. I see there's a difference between people who get bored with something because they outgrew it and they transcended it, and that's a natural occurrence, right, within that spiral that's expanding, or you simply get bored with something because you yourself cannot participate with that, to that truth of love. And I've many times experienced that, where people get in a relationship so fast, so quickly, and they're not actually able to withhold that. So like the quick orgasm, right? But you cannot extend it into you always living like that. It becomes your living reality. Then what people do is they chase the moment, or they chase the person that this moment they had or felt with is associated with. So we associate it with a certain person. When the union and the love is true, we no longer have an association with it, but we actually have this natural filled union with it. It's like infinity symbol moves between us and the other person, or us and that which we invest our life force in. And that for me is a true mystical marriage, and the sacred marriage, where in the middle point of that infinity symbol there's always spirit, right? And when I do sessions with people, when I do any sort of work, I always tell them, before we start anything, we visualize that infinity flowing between us, from our sacred heart to the other ones. And in between, in that crossing point, is that always expanding life force of spirit, so that the guidance comes from there, not just persona to persona. We get quickly attached to that. And I've experienced a lot of that in my own life. I had to, because I was kind of studying the human psyche and how people are still acting and reacting within many of the limiting patterns and belief systems they've created and built upon these realities that kind of like layers of the onion, but they always come back to themselves. They kind of, it's a reality that folds in itself. But we gotta sometimes also, when we truly transcend it, we also allow it to collapse. So we have a set of items. We don't just say, okay, I'm gonna throw 7 of them away. They represent this kind of like collectibles. But the 8th one, I just want to keep this one. It's kind of how that feels. We got to allow ourselves to also fold in on ourselves, but also that collapse to happen, because that collapse is the collapse of something that held us in a certain framework. But as an ever-expanding soul, a sovereign soul in all life and creation, and we're experiencing and expanding in this life, and we're adventurous beings. Souls are adventurous beings. Unless we get trapped into these fragmented, limited, ideas. So it's time to replace them with the higher ideals. And for that reason, I also want to remind you to take a look into my last mastery course. It's called the Tantrika. It's exactly on how you can achieve that attainment within yourself first, how you can truly come into the essence of your unified self. I teach you the artwork of the sacred breath, meeting with the body and both aspects of creation, the dark, the womb, the pulsating womb, and the light, the white light spiraling. And there's also a light activation that's related to that. It's a 44-minute long light activation that's a part of the video, but I also made an audio to assist you for those of you who really want to learn this breath before it gets automatic for you. It's kind of like a long process, but when you master your energy enough, you can do it like this. So the light activation itself, you can purchase that on your own if you want, but the video explains the theoretical aspect for you to hold as a layout, so you can practice that work of breath and in the body and the life force mastery. So this course is all about the life mastery, so we can become our true tantrika self, which is the triangulated aspect of our complete union. It's 5.5 hours long. It's super long, has a lot of everything I put into. It's a labor of love. I hope you make the call if you're so guided to get the course. But I also now want to share about my singing, about the Sacred Beloved attunements. Just this week, I gifted them my music because they shared something amazing with me. I was just guided to gift them with my CD, right? My MP3 songs of the Beloved. And I got such a beautiful feedback and response. I was so moved because the person said that this is literally what all music should be about, that they waited their whole life for that kind of music. And it's very, it's sacred, and not everyone is taking it like that. But the level where I work from is simply just attunement through that Beloved, which is not just Beloved of you, a reference to the B, but feeling yourself as this pole of life, this spiraling life force, and you a part of that life force, and just that reverence that you hold for you, for the Beloved and all life. And that's the true devotional path. And many times it's called the sadhana, which is that devotion to that. Or the love yoga, right? The bhakti yoga that focuses around the heart and this devotional attunement. So if you're guided, make that call as well. That's on my Beloved part of my webpage, and it sings of all life in creation, but mostly that connection with you as yourself, as that sacred lover, and what you perceive, that lover that you meet outside of you in the world, in creation, and you have a unique way of connecting to that. And if I in any way can help to spark that up, because I sing from that aspect that's completely channeled, that's sourced in the moment. And watch my Beloved music video. That's my video, comes from the White Alps and the beauty of these mountains. And it was really recorded and produced, again, with a lot of effort, time, and work as a gift to all life. These are some of the previews of the songs, but there's 27 Beloved songs there, and the intro and outro, so actually it makes them 29. But you know, just recently I started singing again, and then I was like, what? And Spirit said, what, now you think because you just put out these songs that your singing stops, right? I'm like, wow, exactly. Why do we sometimes as humans think in such linear terms? Right? It always expands, and we think, if in any way we think of the Beloved as a goal, we've missed it. We've missed the point, because we are that Beloved, and we are that spinning and moving and rotating, and it's amazing. So the idea here of what I share is in terms of mystical sacred union is to get you out of that box, is to get you out of the linear mode and that twin flame reality, which is steps, final, outcome. But it's this idea that promotes unity and unification and greater levels of you, because you might know yourself here on this aspect, but yet there's layers around you that you haven't even explored yet. That's how the soul evolves and expands. And there's a lot of us here who are here to serve and bring you this wisdom from the high realms, so that souls who are now still so earthbound can expand and move deeper and go beyond that. So I hope that helps you. And I want to just share a little bit of something, a melody and tune that came through myself today. So give you a little bit of that in the preview, and then consider perhaps, of course, also to support my work when I share here. You can support it by purchasing the Beloved songs, the Songs of the Beloved CD. The link is down below. It's on my page called The Beloved. It also has some poems and things there. So yeah, and the Sacred Cosmic Beloved course, because that's gonna kind of like create it to get you out of the box, to merge with this aspect and to unify through all the partnerships you've ever had, to deepen the self through the conscious observations and reflections with others, so that each relationship you move into will be more and more conscious, because you'll be more conscious, and you'll be able to penetrate your reality and your awareness much deeper than you've perhaps thought it's possible. And that's going to make you a super awesome being of creation, super awesome, amazing being of divine love that you are. But you're going to be more aware of that. You won't just say, I'm this and that. You will actually start embodying it in a more integrated way than ever before. And that's my purpose and mission, is to get you out of that box, is to share that unification, and not just the concept of it, but how to get there. Each of you in your own way, of course. Enjoy. I'll talk to you soon, and have a beautiful Beloved moments wherever you are, because they're always there. And don't chase anything. Let things come to you, because they already are here. They already exist because you exist as you are. So thank you. Thank you for watching. Lots of love. If singing about you won't bring you into my world, then I don't know ocean of union, there lies only the wisdom and beauty of love. Everything ever that you could be hoping for, there is magic in union. There lies only the depth and the mystery of love. It is time now for all lovers to unite. Get the CD, okay, guys? Love you all so much. Bye.